The war is no longer waiting to begin. It is already here, silent, fast, and deadly. In the middle of it all, one man becomes the center of everything, Lord John Grey. His capture is not just an event, it is a spark that threatens to burn down every fragile alliance left standing. And as Jaime Fraser steps into a world where every path leads to loss, the question is no longer how to win the war, but who will survive it. Everything begins with a war that is already out of control. The air is heavy with fear, and every passing moment feels like it is pulling everyone closer to collapse. Jaime Fraser stands at the center of it, not as a man with clear choices, but as someone trapped between impossible ones. On one side is the battlefield, where history is being written in blood. On the other side is something far more personal. Lord John Grey, taken and held by enemies who understand exactly how to break a man without killing him first. Nothing about this situation is simple anymore. What once looked like a political conflict has now turned into something deeply personal. The capture of Lord John Grey is not random. It is calculated. It is designed to force Jaime into a corner where every decision carries loss. And Jaime understands that clearly. The enemy is not just trying to win a fight. They are trying to control his heart through pressure, timing, and fear. As the war at King's Mountain grows closer, Jaime feels the weight of two worlds collapsing into one. The battlefield demands leadership, strategy, and sacrifice. But the rescue of Lord John Grey demands speed, secrecy, and emotional strength. These two forces cannot exist together for long. One will eventually destroy the other. And then there is William. William is no longer just a silent observer in this story. He is caught in the same storm, pulled between truth and loyalty, between anger and understanding. The kidnapping of Lord John Grey hits him harder than anyone expected. It is not just about loss. It is about identity, about the people who shaped him, raised him, and defined his sense of right and wrong. And now one of those people is gone, taken into danger that feels impossible to escape. This is where tension begins to rise in a different way. Not just through war, but through emotion. Jaime sees it in William's eyes. A shift that cannot be ignored. The boy who once struggled to understand his place is now forced into a world where action matters more than answers. And that makes him dangerous, not because he is reckless, but because he is emotional at the worst possible time. Every layer of this situation starts to tighten. Jaime cannot fully focus on the battlefield because Lord John Grey is still out there, suffering in silence. But he also cannot abandon the war, because doing so would cost countless lives and destroy everything he has fought for. It is a balance that cannot be maintained for long. And Jaime knows it. What makes this even worse is the feeling that none of it is accidental. There are signs everywhere that this kidnapping is part of something larger. A carefully built plan meant to break alliances, weaken trust, and force Jaime into making a move he will regret no matter what he chooses. It is not just war anymore. It is manipulation. As pressure builds, Jaime begins to realize something darker. This is not a situation where intelligence alone will save him. Every option has consequences. Every decision removes something he cannot replace. If he goes for the rescue, the war could fall apart. If he focuses on the war, Lord John Grey may not survive long enough to be saved. And if he tries to split his attention, both outcomes could collapse at once. There is no comfort in any direction. And still, time continues moving forward. The closer King's Mountain comes to full conflict, the more urgent everything becomes. Messages arrive faster. Plans change without warning. Allies grow uncertain. Enemies grow bolder. It feels like the entire world is shifting toward a single breaking point, and Jaime is standing directly in its path. William's emotions begin to turn into action. Not carefully planned action, but instinctive movement driven by fear and attachment. He cannot stand still knowing that Lord John Grey is in danger. And that creates another problem for Jaime, because now he is not just responsible for leading a war, but also for controlling the direction of someone who is acting from pain, not logic. And somewhere in the middle of all this, trust becomes the most fragile thing left. Jaime can no longer fully trust the situation in front of him, and he cannot fully trust that those around him will make rational choices under pressure. The enemy understands this. That is why Lord John Grey is still alive. Not as a prisoner waiting for rescue, but as leverage, used carefully, held deliberately, and positioned to force mistakes. The rescue is no longer a possibility. It is becoming an obligation. And as that truth settles in, Jaime is forced to accept something he has tried to avoid. There may be no version of this story where everyone survives unchanged. The moment Jamie accepts that the rescue cannot be avoided, everything around him begins to feel heavier. It is no longer a question of if he will act, but how far he is willing to go when every direction leads to sacrifice. The war at King's Mountain is no longer a distant threat. It is now a living force moving forward with or without him, pulling armies, lives, and history toward a single violent outcome. And in the middle of this unstoppable movement, Lord John Grey remains in enemy hands. What makes the situation more dangerous is how controlled it all feels. This is not chaos. It is design. The enemy is not reacting randomly. They are waiting, watching, measuring Jamie's pressure points. And they have chosen the most effective one, loyalty. Lord John Grey is not just a prisoner. He is a message, a warning, and a trap all at once. Jamie begins to see the shape of it more clearly with every passing hour. The capture is too precise, too timely, too aligned with the larger conflict. It feels less like an act of war and more like a move in a larger game meant to force Jamie into emotional decision-making. And emotional decisions in war are never safe. The deeper he thinks, the clearer the danger becomes. If he moves too early, he risks walking directly into an ambush. If he waits too long, Lord John Grey may not survive. If he ignores the rescue entirely, William will break in a way that cannot be repaired. There is no version of this situation that ends cleanly, and that is what makes it unbearable. At the same time, William is no longer holding himself back. The emotional shock of Lord John Grey's capture has changed him. He is no longer trying to understand events from a distance. He is inside them now. Every memory he has, every bond he trusted, is pulling him toward action. Not careful action, but urgent, unstable movement driven by fear of loss. Jamie sees it clearly. William is close to stepping into danger without fully understanding the cost. But stopping him is not simple, because this is not just rebellion or anger. It is grief in motion, and grief is difficult to control once it starts moving. As Jamie tries to hold the situation together, another realization begins to settle in. Something is wrong with the pattern of events. Too many pieces are aligning at once. The war, the kidnapping, the timing of betrayals, it all feels too coordinated to be coincidence. This is not just a battlefield strategy. It is psychological warfare. The enemy is not only trying to defeat Jamie physically, they are trying to isolate him emotionally, forcing him into a state where every decision feels like loss. They want him exhausted, divided, and uncertain. And it is working. Even Jamie, a man known for clarity under pressure, begins to feel the strain of contradiction. Duty pulls him in one direction. Loyalty pulls him in another. Responsibility pulls him somewhere else entirely. And in the middle of all these forces, there is no stable ground left to stand on. The closer he gets to a decision, the more dangerous everything becomes. Because now, even time is an enemy. Every delay increases the risk for Lord John Grey. Every movement increases the risk for his men. Every hesitation increases the risk for William. It is a cycle of pressure that never stops building. And somewhere deep inside, Jamie understands something he does not say out loud. This mission is not designed for success. It is designed for cost. William's involvement grows even more unstable. His decisions begin to shift from emotional reaction to determined action. He is no longer asking for permission in his mind. He is preparing himself to act regardless of consequence. That change is subtle, but dangerous. Because once someone decides that waiting is no longer an option, control becomes nearly impossible. Jamie recognizes the danger immediately. But he also recognizes something else. William is not just reacting as a son or a soldier. He is reacting as someone who feels like he is losing two fathers at the same time. One to war, one to captivity. And that kind of emotional weight does not stay contained for long. It spills into action. Meanwhile, the enemy continues tightening the pressure. The location of Lord John Grey is not revealed fully. Only fragments. Enough to guide, but not enough to ensure safety. It is intentional. Every step toward rescue is designed to increase risk, not reduce it. Jamie understands the pattern now. This is not a rescue mission that has been interrupted. It is a rescue mission that has been engineered to fail unless perfection is achieved. And perfection in war does not exist. Still, Jamie begins preparing. Not because he believes success is certain, but because inaction is no longer possible. Every instinct he has tells him the same truth. Lord John Grey is being used as a trigger point for something larger. Something that will not end with his rescue or his death. It will end with consequences that spread far beyond this moment. And as Jamie steps closer to action, one final realization begins to form in silence. Even if Lord John Grey is saved, nothing will return to how it was before. The moment the rescue begins to move from thought into action, the entire world around Jamie shifts. It is no longer strategy on paper or plans spoken in low voices. It is real now, immediate, unforgiving. Every decision carries weight that cannot be reversed, and every second lost feels like it is cutting deeper into the outcome. There is no more space for hesitation. The enemy is already prepared. That is the truth Jamie accepts as he moves forward. This is not a situation where surprise will guarantee success. It is a situation built to force reaction. Every step toward Lord John Grey feels like it has already been anticipated, already accounted for, already turned into part of a larger design. And still he moves. Because stopping is not an option anymore. What makes this stage of the story so dangerous is not just the enemy's control, but the emotional pressure building inside Jamie himself. He is no longer operating as only a leader or a soldier. He is operating as someone carrying multiple identities at once: father, protector, friend, and commander. Each role demands something different. Each role pulls him in a different direction. And none of them can be ignored. William's presence becomes even more significant as the mission unfolds. He is no longer standing at the edge of the situation. He is inside it now, emotionally and physically. The idea of losing Lord John Grey is no longer abstract for him. It is immediate, personal, and unbearable. That emotional intensity removes hesitation from his actions. But it also removes caution. Jamie sees the danger clearly. William is not thinking in terms of long-term consequences anymore. He is thinking in terms of now, of preventing loss at any cost. And that mindset, while powerful, is unpredictable in a war environment where timing and precision matter more than emotion. Still, Jamie cannot fully pull him back, because he understands why William is like this. Lord John Grey is not just a prisoner to him. He is a foundation of his past, a constant figure in his identity. Losing him feels like losing a piece of himself. And that kind of emotional attachment does not fade simply because danger increases. It intensifies. As the rescue deepens, the tension reaches a point where silence itself feels dangerous. Every movement is measured. Every decision feels like it could trigger collapse. And yet there is no clear moment where everything becomes safe. The entire operation feels like walking through unstable ground where one wrong step changes everything. And the worst part is this: the enemy is not rushing. They are waiting. That patience is what makes the situation terrifying. Because it confirms the truth Jamie already suspected. The capture of Lord John Grey was never meant to create urgency alone. It was meant to control behavior, to force movement, to shape decisions under pressure until mistakes become unavoidable. This is not just physical captivity. It is psychological control. And Jamie is walking directly through it. As the rescue nears its critical point, the emotional cost becomes more visible. Jamie begins to understand that even success will not restore balance. Because nothing about this situation is temporary. Everything being done here leaves consequences behind. Trust is already damaged. Relationships are already strained. And even if Lord John Grey survives, the impact of this moment will remain. William's internal struggle reaches its peak during this phase. He is no longer able to separate love from urgency. His actions begin to reflect someone who is willing to risk everything for one outcome, even if that outcome is uncertain. That kind of emotional commitment creates strength, but also instability. Jamie knows it, but he also knows stopping him completely is no longer realistic. All he can do now is guide what cannot be controlled. As the final phase of the rescue unfolds, everything begins to converge into a single point. The war, the kidnapping, the emotional fractures, the hidden strategies, they all collapse into one moment where action replaces planning entirely. There is no more analysis, no more preparation, only movement. And in that movement, Jamie is forced to confront the final truth of this entire situation. Even if Lord John Grey is pulled back from death, the world they return to will not be the same one they left. Because something has already changed permanently, not just in the war, but in every person touched by it.